Hello there, brave adventurers. Pathfinder is a world where the only limit is your imagination. From mighty fighters to cunning rogues, spell-slinging wizards to divine clerics, the choices are endless of what you can create. Together, we'll navigate the character creation process step by step, unlocking the full potential of your hero. We'll explore the vast possibilities of ancestry, class, backgrounds, so by the end of this video, you'll have a character that's ready to go play with your friends. So, the very first step you need to do in order to create a character is to have some sort of concept you have in mind. Do you want to be the knight in shining armor that is a noble fighter that will protect those that are in need? Or do you want to be some cunning rogue who's all scrounged for every little thing that they've come up with in their life? And be some strange race that isn't quite so common, like Leshies or Nephilim? There's all sorts of amazing, weird things that you can come up with in Pathfinder. So the idea is you have to have a general concept. And many times, there will be something that you can make your idea form into. If you just look into the core rulebook that just came out for the Remaster, there are a total of 8 different ancestries and 8 different classes for you to choose from. There are many more that still exist outside of the Remaster, but those will be a great place for you to get started in looking into your concept. So, I already have a character in mind that I think we will be doing today. So let's look into what a step-by-step guide of making a character looks like. So, for my first character here, I have decided that we should make a Leshy, because that is definitely something that's a bit different and things that people who are not familiar with Pathfinder might find interesting. Leshies are pretty much spirits that inhabit vessels that typically druids or other powerful casters with strong ties to nature can create and summon. So, they come in a wide variety of natural creatures. So, the very first thing you'll want to do when you're looking at your Leshy is there's 2 major choices that you have. There is your heritage and your ancestry feat. So, the heritage is what is your Leshy? What was it created as? Because they're not necessarily born as. So, looking here in the core rulebook, you will see many different forms. Cactus, Leshy, fruit, Leshy, fungus, gourd, leaf, lotus, root, seaweed, and vine. These are all different choices that you can make. And for the most part, the beauty of Pathfinder 2nd Edition is there are very few things that are a wrong choice. Almost anything you can make work. These are just small, flavorful things that will probably change a little bit of how your Leshy looks, but also gives you a small advantage in battle. For this one, I have an idea of making a leaf Leshy. So if we look at what that does, is your body is made mostly of natural foliage, like a leaf tumbling from a tree. You take no fall damage whenever you fall, regardless of distance. So yes, these are realistic games. You will take fall damage if you fall too far. So this is an ability that allows you to circumvent that and to take no damage at all. So you will want to denote that on your character sheet under your heritage. And then we will look into ancestry feats. This is another choice that you get to make at level 1. You will gain more of these later on, but for now we're just looking at the level 1 feats. As you can see here, our choices are Grasping Reach, Harmlessly Cute, Leshy Lore, Leshy Superstition, Seed Pod, Shadow of Wilds, and Undaunted. So I believe it's becoming clear to many of you already that you can create whatever it is you want with these characters. You have already had 2 different choices with at least 7 different choices each, that even if another player decides to play the same ancestry as you, they can have different things from you. So, for example, for this one, let's go with Harmlessly Cute, a really cute looking little Leshy. So that they are really good at asking things of people, and they can be sneaky when they're trying to not outright go into battle against something straight up. So the other things that you will want to denote when you pick your ancestry is over in this right hand column here. You'll want to denote the number of hit points that your ancestry gives you. Hit points, as in every game, are the amount of damage you can take before you are knocked unconscious. You are a small size, which means you are roughly half the size of a standard 6-foot human. So most Leshies would probably be between 2.5 to 3.5 feet tall or something like that. You are pretty small. Your speed is how far you can move in a turn. Your attribute boosts, which we'll go over more in a minute, but do note them down that you have a boost in Constitution and Wisdom, and one that is free that you can put into anything. Though do note, whenever you get a free attribute boost, you cannot use it to gain something that you already gained from that source. So when you're doing this with Leshy, you cannot also gain Constitution or Wisdom. You can gain it in any other stat: Strength, Dexterity, Intelligence, or Charisma. Where your attribute flaw is Intelligence. To note, your starting languages are Common and Fey. If we eventually get our intelligence high enough, we will gain additional languages, but because our flaw is Intelligence, that will be difficult for you to do with the Leshy. Your traits are Leshy and Plant. You gain low light vision, which means you can see as well in low light as humans can in normal light. So you don't take any disadvantages from there not being a lot of light. And the most unusual thing for them is plant nourishment, where pretty much you gain your food from photosynthesis. You don't have to buy food, unless of course you're going deep to underground or into a dungeon for a long period of time. Then you might have to buy special bottled sunlight, so that food is more expensive. So it's a trade-off. Now that we have our ancestry totally picked out, let us look into the next part in the book, which is your background. What did your character do before they chose their class? You may have an idea of what class you want to be, so what is it that they did beforehand? Again, this is a lot of flavor. Because each of these almost always gives a free attribute boost that you can put into whatever you need, there is not a lot of wrong choices here. So, for something like a Leshy, I'm thinking we're going to go Druid, so let's do like Herbalist. Those are ones that are trained apothecary, ruler practitioner of folk medicine, healing properties of herbs, works with plants and all that stuff. So, if we look under this background, you will see that it gives us 2 attribute boosts, one which must be Constitution or Wisdom, and one is a free attribute boost which can go into anything. We are also trained in the Nature skill, so mark down that skill proficiency, the Herbalism lore skill, so mark that in the lore section, and we gain the Natural Medicine skill feat. So we are almost done with knowing all of our attributes. Once we have picked our final major source, we will finalize all of these attributes that we've gotten so far. So, next we will move on to our class. I'm going to pick the stereotypical choice for a Leshy, which is Druid. They are very naturally made for being with spirits. They already get a bonus to Wisdom, which if you look under their key attribute is Wisdom. So if you know nothing else about your attributes, it is a very good idea to put everything you can in your key attribute to get it up to the maximum that you can at level 1, which is a 4. Because this is what most of your stuff goes off of. As a druid, you are a full spell caster. All of your spells, based on how well they can bypass enemy resistances or hit, is all based on wisdom. How much damage they do, many times will let you add your wisdom to it. Therefore, having your wisdom very high is very important. Once you have picked your class, you will now be able to finalize all of your attributes. So, for something like this Leshy that we're looking at here, we'll look into what I did for a quick sample druid build. Once you have your key attribute, there is one other thing that will add to your attributes, is you get 4 free attribute boosts as well at level 1. This allows you to, once again, put it into 4 separate attributes, because remember, you can't put them into the same one. So, let us look into what I did for my sample little Leshy here. So, my free attribute that I gained at level 1 due to being a Leshy, I decided to put into Strength. And then my attributes from being an Herbalist, I decided to take Wisdom and Constitution. And then for my free boosts, I took Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Wisdom. And when this all worked out, this is what we get. 2, 2, 2, 4, 2, 2, 2, -1, 4-0. So this gives a class that is very focused on wisdom. It gives me the highest I need in wisdom to be able to do everything I want to do, but also gives me a good balance of the physical attributes. Why do I do it this way? I mean, we could go more in depth into exactly what this means, but for a quick intro video, strength allows me to wear heavier armor so that I don't need really heavy armor, but the little bit of dex allows me to fill out that armor so that I have the highest AC available to myself at that level. The 2 in Constitution helps you have more hit points, so you are more difficult to take down. Intelligence is not particularly important to this class. It is something that does allow you to get more languages, more skills. It does allow you to be a more versatile character. And depending on what you want to do, sometimes overcoming that flaw could be a good idea. Wisdom is what I need the most. It makes your spells more powerful. So it is incredibly important to have that at least a 3. Usually you always want it to be a 4. And charisma is how you're able to talk to things and be able to socially interact with them. Being a more aloof druid, this feels much more up their alley, so we will keep our charisma as a 0. Now you will want to denote everything that your class gives you. This will probably take the most out of all your time. So if we look at the right-hand side here again, first we'll see just to the left of that hit points. You get 8 plus your Constitution modifier. Adding that to the 8 original hit points we got from Leshy, we will now have 18 hit points at level 1. Your initial proficiencies are everything that you gain just because you picked this class in level 1. You will want to mark that you are trained in perception. Your saving throws are a totally another category. You are trained in fortitude, trained in reflex, expert in will. Your skills are trained in nature, trained in 1 skill determined by your druidic order, which we will pick in a moment. And then you are trained in an additional number of skills equal to 2 plus your Constitution modifier. Your attacks are, you are trained in simple and unarmed attacks. You won't typically be using your weapon very often. You'll be relying on spells that you can cast an infinite number of times per day, typically to do your damage. So, this usually will not matter too much. But, for some, it may. Your defenses are you are trained in light and medium armor, so you can wear some armor, and you are trained in unarmored defense. This will allow you to defend yourself with any of these 3 options depending on what you chose. Because we have a decent strength and a decent dexterity, we will likely be using medium armor. Spells. You are trained in spell attack modifier and spell DC. Again, denote this in the appropriate boxes here. This is your ability to affect things with your spells, whether they require an attack roll for you to attack them, or it requires them to make a saving throw in order to defend it. And then your class DC is you're trained in that as well. There is usually not a lot the druids use that require you to know this DC, but it's always good to denote. So once you have all of those written down, there are a couple of other things that you will have to choose, such as we spoke earlier about your druidic order. You will have to make a selection of the orders that are available. If we are just looking in the core rulebook that was given Player Core 1 that was just released, we have Animal, Leaf, Storm, and Untamed. For this sample build, if you look down on page 132, you will see that there is a Storm Druid there. So we will go ahead and use this as a sample build, because we're just making your very first character. You can dive in deep and try and make all these complicated choices, but usually these builds will do a really good job of helping you out at first. So, for choosing the Storm order, we take a look at what it has to say. You carry the fury of the storm, you ride winds through the air. Okay, that's just, what it says that you do. So you'll want to denote that you are trained in acrobatics. If for some reason you would become trained in something that from your class or from your order choices or any choices that you make later on in character creation, if you were already trained in acrobatics, you would become trained in any one other skill of your choice. Does not become a waste, or it does not improve your ability with that skill. You just get to choose one more. You get the Druid feat, Stormborn, and you get the order spell Tempest Surge, which is a very good single target attack. And you have anathemas that are specific to druids. All druids cannot despoil natural places, consume more natural resource than you're required to live comfortably, or teach the wild song language to another non-druid. But, in addition, your order will give you another anathema that you cannot violate, where you cannot pollute the air, allow those who cause major air pollution or climate shifts to go unpunished. Within reason. You don't have to sacrifice yourself or to do anything to stop just potential for it. And it has to be people that are doing it. So then let us look into everything that all druids also gain at level 1. You gain spellcasting because, well, you're a full spellcaster. We'll look into what spell... Well, let's look into it right now. So if we look into this table here, you will see that you have, at level 1, you have 5 cantrips and 2 rank 1 spells that you can prepare each day. This means that cantrips are like 0 rank spells. They are things that you can cast as many times as you want per day. There is no limit to the number you can cast. Where your first level spell, if you cast it, you use that spell slot, and you only have 1 spell slot remaining until you finish a long rest. So, if we look at the sample Storm Druid, we'll just take the recommended spells just to keep things simple here. At first level, it recommends Breathe Fire and Gust of Wind. And the cantrips are Detect Magic, Electric Arc, which is one of your primary damage spells if you're hitting multiple targets. Frostbite is your single target spell for hitting one thing at a long range. Know the Way, and Light. So to know all of these spells, you will probably want to look a little more into detail about what they all do before you enter your first session, so you're not having to look it up every time you try to cast a spell. But for now, we're just trying to show you how to fill out a character. So the next thing that you will have to do is look at class feats. For druids at level 1, it's pretty simple. You gain the feat based off of what order you took. So it's really simple what you choose at level 1. You don't necessarily have much of a choice unless your order tells you otherwise. So if we look at the Stormborn feat, you are at home in the elements, you do not take circumstance penalties to range spell attacks or percent checks caused by weather, and your target spells don't require a flat check to succeed against a target concealed by weather. So this allows you to basically see through heavy rain, through fog, through anything that's naturally caused, though not through things like smoke, because those are not caused by weather. Next we'll look into make sure, are there any other class features that we gained at level 1? Well, yes, there are. We look at Shield Block. This allows you to block with your shield whenever you have it raised as a reaction to reduce incoming damage. This will damage your shield, but it will also reduce the amount of damage that you take. We look at Voice of Nature, which you also gain at first level. You gain your choice of Animal Empathy or Plant Empathy as a druid feat. This practically allows you, do you want to be better at talking to animals or talking to plants? Typically, animals will likely come up more often, but depending on your character or the campaign, sometimes plant empathy can be more flavorful or interesting, or it could be actually very useful if it happens to be that type of campaign. And Wild Song, which we briefly touched on, is the druid language. It is a language that only druids know. You cannot teach it to anybody else, or you will potentially lose some of your druid powers. And that rounds up what we need to know from your class. So, now let us move on to one of the final things that you need to do to have your character ready, is we move on into equipment. You are an adventurer. You'll want to have some things ready to go. So let us flip now to page 268 here, and you will see quick equipment packages. These are great at getting you started on what you want your druid to have. So we will take exactly what it tells us here. We'll take the hide armor, 4 javelins and a spear, the adventurer's pack, a primal symbol, and if you want to spend the additional 5 gold pieces, you can pick up a healer's toolkit. Because you are good at wisdom, you are generally good at medicine and nature, so this can be a fine thing for you to pick up if you wish to have a little more healing and help out the party. So we will denote all of this that it gives us. Something that you may definitely want to recommend, especially because the class literally gives you shield block, as you may wish to pick up a shield, which is either 1 gold or 2 gold, depending on whether you want the wooden shield or the more sturdy steel shield. And do keep in mind, if you have more dexterity and less strength, then you will want to look into lighter armors that are on the list, such as chain shirts or even leather if you go down that low. Or if you want to pick up something a little heftier, if you really went heavily into strength, you can go ahead and pick up chainmail or breastplate, because you need a minimum of the strength scores in order to overcome the speed penalty and the armor check penalty, which will be a penalty to your dexterity-based skill checks. But also, you want to... The main thing when looking at armor is you want to maximize these two numbers, the AC bonus and the dex cap. So, if you have only a +2 dex like we do, we will want hide or scale mail. These are the two that are particularly good for us to pick, because we have the base of +3 from the armor and +2 dex with the strength needed of +2 to negate the penalties. So this will give us +5 AC. Just like if you wore lighter armor, you want to have the +3 dexterity for studded leather, or if you wore heavy armor, you would want to have a high strength but don't need any dex. Do keep in mind, we are not proficient with heavy armor, so don't look into heavy armor for your druids, per se. So next we look at our weapons. We can denote a few things about the weapons that we just picked out. If we just take what the starting gave us, we can look for a spear under simple weapons. We can see that its damage is 1d6. The P denotes that it does piercing damage. We denote its bulk, how many hands it takes, spear, and we can also note that it is a thrown weapon or a monk weapon, but monk weapons aren't really going to be important to us. But these traits can be important to know. Again, we're not going to dive too deep into these. We're already going along in an initial how to make your character video. And then we will look at javelins, which we have to go on to another page for. Once again, 1d6 piercing damage. They can be thrown 30 feet. They are light bulk, and they are thrown weapons. So, now that we have everything denoted, it's time to do some calculations about what all of our stats end up being. So, let us start denoting some of these totals. So, we will just move from the top of the sheet down. So, we will start with your armor class. Your armor class always starts at 10. Everybody's does. You get to add your dexterity modifier plus your proficiency bonus. So this is where those proficiencies come in that we were talking about. If you are trained in something, you get to add your level +2 to something. So for level 1 characters, this is +3. Plus the item bonus, which for our hide armor was 3. So this would give us an 18 armor class. That is what someone would have to beat when they roll their attack to hit us. Now if you took a shield, most standard shields will give you a +2 to AC, but this is only when you use an action to raise it. So that's why it's on a separate section there. You can also denote your shield's hardness, maximum HP, BT, which is break threshold, and its current HP to the right, which should be at full health right now. Next we'll move over to the right, where we come to our fortitude, reflex, and will saves. As we denoted before, we are trained in reflex, trained in fortitude, but expert in will. So this means that expert is your level +4, where master is +6 and legendary is +8. So for our fortitude, being trained, +2 for our stat would give us 5. Reflex with a +2 would give us 5 again. Then will with a +4 +5, because we are an expert in it, gives us a +9. As you can see, we are clearly much better at will saves than everything else. As I stated before, our hit points are 8 for Leshy, 8 for the class, 2 from our constitution to give us a total of 18 hit points at level 1. Next we'll move on to all of our skills. If you have decided on all of your trained skills, it goes through the exact same process. You will see the first thing under each box is what each skill is based off of. If you are not proficient in a skill, you do not get any proficiency bonus, so that is a 0. So you will add, for acrobatics, you add your dexterity, which we know we are trained in because that is what Storm Druid gave us, plus any item bonuses. We don't have any of those yet. The armor slot is where you would denote an armor check penalty, but because we reach the strength threshold of our armor, we negate that strength penalty. So therefore, for something such as acrobatics, we have +2 dex, +3 for proficiency, and no other modifiers. We'd have a +5 to acrobatics. And you would go through for each of these skills. We have a -1 intelligence for arcana. We are likely not proficient in it because we're never going to be good at it because of our intelligence. So we have a total of -1 to our arcana. Don't ask us anything about what the wizards are doing. We have no idea. And you would go on through each and every skill. For the most part, you just need to denote the ones that you are proficient in, because these are the ones that you will likely use more. But it's always good to know all of the others, just it's your your attribute that is tied to it. Languages we denoted. If you have a positive intelligence modifier, you do gain additional languages at the start of the game, so you can denote them here. You can find the table for languages on this page, and here they are. It denoted that we are trained in intelligence, so again that's plus. We have a +7 to a perception. Our speed is based off of our race, which was 25 feet, very standard speed, and it would be -5 if we did not meet that strength threshold for our armor again, so that is just 25. So weapon strikes, we will look at our spear. Our spear is a melee weapon, so it will use strength as both its bonus to hit and damage. So our bonus to hit is strength +2 plus trained in simple weapons for +3 for a total of +5. And our damage we take from the weapon, which is 1d6, and add our 2 for strength. Do note that if you throw a weapon, as this has the thrown trait, you then will have to use dexterity to hit and strength for damage. Because our attributes are the exact same in this case, this actually is the exact same modifier whether you are trying to throw or poke somebody with it in melee. And the same thing for the javelin. So 1d6 thrown has the same exact modifiers to hit and to damage. Oh yes, your class DC. Once again, 10 plus your key attribute, which was wisdom, so 4 plus proficiency. We're proficient in it. We have a 17 as our class DC. Moving on to page 2, you will have filled out most of this stuff already based off of everything that you chose at level 1 at the top. You can use the inventory sections here to denote anything that you are carrying, wearing, everything that you have. Therefore, you will denote their total bulk here. You want to keep your bulk below 5 plus your strength modifier. That's how you avoid being encumbered and largely slowed in moving and easier to hit. Remember, 10 light items equals 1 bulk. Negligible bulk items obviously just do not count towards your bulk limit, and therefore when you add up your bulk, you will place it here, unless you're like me as a GM and really don't care that much about bulk. Some don't. Make sure you are aware of what they do. Every class starts with 15 gold. If you have done as I recommended, you took the starter kit, that is 4 gold. If you want to have a bunch of random adventuring items that will just be generally good, like rope, soul rations, all these common things, a lot of these things will be found in the adventurer's kit, which is worth 15 silver pieces or 1.5 gold pieces. So you can add that all here. That's a total of... You'll have 9 gold and 5 silver remaining. If you picked up that steel shield in order to have more endurance, you will have 7 gold and 5 silver remaining to buy whatever little things you want, or just to have some starting gold in your pocket when you start the adventure. This next page, you will add in any of these details that you want. For some ancestries, it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense unless you're really that deep into it. Your ethnicity, your nationality, your birthplace, you can either make up or work with your GM to come up with. Age, gender, height, weight, appearance, these are all things that you can fill in. The most unusual thing that you might find here are deities, because not everybody needs to have a deity, especially depending on your class, such as druids don't need one. But if you choose to worship one, you may place it here. And the main thing that denotes who your character is, how they think, how they will react to situations, is edicts and anathemas. You will find that there are some common ones for your ancestry. Like, let us look at what is common for Eleshi. You do not have to do these, and I find many people don't pick these as necessarily, but they're things to get your mind going. So edicts are things that your character believes in, things that they want to do, things that they will almost always pursue, where you want to experience the physical world and establish a family through loyalty and trust, or protect parts of nature that you embody. Or their anathemas are things that they hate, things that make them feel bad, or things that they want to prevent at all costs, where embracing unnatural magic or influences might be for something that is a natural spirit like Eleshi. Obviously, you can make these whatever you want, so long as, they are acceptable. Your anathemas can be things about, assault and torture, but, yeah, don't make those your edicts. But that's not gonna end well, unless your party has fully agreed on an evil campaign. But that's not something very common. And finally, what's important for druids is we will denote the final page with his spells. You are a druid, so you cast primal spells. If you were a wizard, you would cast arcane. Cleric is divine. Typically, the witch is our primary occult caster, but depending on what they choose, they can actually be anything. This is just denotes where your power comes from. As a druid, it is always primal. You will denote your spells per day, which is 2 level 1 spells in that first spot. And we come down to your spell attack modifier, which we are trained in. So we add our 4 wisdom, our 3 proficiency for 7 spell attack. Our spell DC is also plus 7, so it's a base of 17. We have our 5 cantrips. Your cantrip rank is just 1. There's no bonus. Your cantrips will get stronger as you level up, but that's not where we're at right now. So, you will begin entering in those 5 cantrips that you chose here. You note that as a druid, you can change these every day when you prepare new spells, but these are the spells that you can prepare for today. Because you can cast 5 of them, you prepare 5 of them. Just like with spells, you have 2 per day, so you choose which 2 you have. If, per se, you wanted to cast Heal twice, you would have to prepare it twice. That is how their spells work. And you do have a focus spell. We do have Tempest Surge that was given to us. Because we gained that order spell, that gives us 1 focus point. Whenever you would possibly gain another focus spell, that is when you would gain another focus point. Focus spells are a little different. We can go more in depth into them later, but just know that you need a focus point in order to cast them, and it takes you 10 minutes of refocusing in order to regain your focus points. So if you have a small amount of time in between battles, you can successfully refocus. And I think that's making this video plenty long enough. I hope this helps you with everything that you need in order to get yourself situated and understand how to make your very first character in Pathfinder. Obviously, there is far more details that we can go into to learn about all of these things, and if you have more questions about any of them, please let me know down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to help you out. I love bringing new people into these hobbies and understanding new systems. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, subscribe, hit that bell if you want to know whenever more of these videos go live, and as always, everyone, remember to be awesome. Till the next one, take care. Bye-bye.